Wonder Woman 1984 has come out on HBO Max and in some cinemas in certain countries, and it is safe to say that the people of the internet did not love it. And I would put myself in that category. This movie was just not good. It's another classic case where the sequel falls well short of the original and another DCEU flop. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down some of the issues that I and many other people had with Wonder Woman 1984. And of course, this video is going to have spoilers, so you have been warned. So looking at the plot, let's start with the opening sequence. It's an Amazonian Olympics type thing in which a child Diana competes against fully grown Amazonian women, and she actually holds her own. But Robin Wright stops her right at the finish line, preventing her from winning because she cheated, and cheating is bad. This scene is really made out as if it was some major foreshadowing for what was to come in the film. And is the theme of the film about cheating and lying? Sorta, but not really. The only way I can link it is through Diana's latest sacrifice of Steve Trevor and revoking her wish and equating that to her learning not to cheat death or learning not to take a shortcut, I guess. It sort of makes sense, but at the same time, it's quite a bit of a reach. I don't think they relate that well. And if that lesson that she's being taught at the beginning of the film isn't relevant to the rest of the film, the whole sequence is just redundant. And it feels like that whole opening sequence was shoehorned in there because of some contractual obligation to have Robin Wright and Connie Nielsen return and to include a little bit more action in the first half of this action-famished movie. Now moving on to the more substantial part of the film. It all really revolves around the Dream Stone, a stone that can grant people's wishes, and of course the wishes come at a cost because unlimited wishes is just too good to be true. And of course, having wishes equals having power, equals certain individuals becoming more power hungry and power mad, and of course that leads to the world coming to an end. And having something that grants wishes with no real rules set out for it is just a recipe for disaster. It's sort of like messing around with time travel. There will always be questions and holes that the audience will start poking into the story, and with the movie being 2.5 hours long, I had plenty of time to poke those holes. The stone can erect walls and instantly create nukes, yet it just can't resurrect Steve Trevor. Instead, he just hijacks some guy's body. I don't know why they made this choice. It added very little to the movie. As soon as she worked out that, that man was actually Steve, and we all know that it's just Steve's consciousness and that body isn't actually his, she just banged him. So, consent? And what about that guy's friends, his family? He must have just completely dropped off the radar for all of them. What about his job? I couldn't stop thinking about all these little things throughout those scenes, and would have been much simpler just to bring back Steve in his own body so it wasn't just another element in the film to distract you. And what about the possibility of people making good wishes, like wishing for all the nukes to disappear, wishing for world peace, wishing for a cure for cancer, or just wishing that the crazy guy on TV would just shut up? Everyone that has access to a TV or a screen could have made a wish, and this was just bugging me the entire time. It made it seem like everyone on the planet would have made selfish wishes, and odds are, even if the majority of the people did, there's still a whole load of people that would have made selfless wishes. Another moment that was completely devoid of logic and really bugged me is a scene where Diana and Steve steal a jet from the Smithsonian. First, those jets are definitely display jets. I doubt they are fueled up. I even think most of the times the engines aren't fully functional. And then Steve Trevor just miraculously knows how to fly this jet. He was flying biplanes in World War I, and the justification that he gives that he is a pilot and he understands how to catch the air and shit, like what the hell does that mean? You don't understand how the apparatus works, so you can't fly the plane. Doesn't matter if you understand, the general physics behind a vehicle gliding in the air. And then we get to the real juicy and stupid bit. Because there's radar, they're not going to make it very far, even with Steve's supposed superior pilot abilities. So Diana just remembers that her father Zeus had made Themyscira invisible, and she just decides to give it a shot. She mentions she did it once before, making a coffee cup invisible. And what do you know? She turns the bloody jet invisible on the first try. So now Wonder Woman just has this new magic ability to make stuff invisible. Another frustrating part of the film is towards the end when Maxwell Lord is using a satellite station to communicate to everyone on Earth, and by some insane leaps of logic, apparently the particles emitted by the satellite would let him touch everyone watching. The rules behind him granting wishes is that he has to be touching the person. And now they're saying that those air particles or those microwaves are allowing him to directly touch billions of people. I found this leap just too too stupid. And yeah, it was really just the nail in the coffin for me. It's like, there's not many rules for this wishing stone. They can do whatever. There's just one rule that you have to be touching it, and they just break that rule. So they just clearly don't give a crap. And to top that off, Wonder Woman in the end communicates through her lasso, which is touching Max, which is communicating through the satellite, which is somehow touching everyone on Earth, and it projects what Wonder Woman says. And these things are just never explained, and there's no logic demonstrated. Her powers, the ability of the lasso, the Dreamstone, nothing is explained, and things can just do stuff suddenly. And if the world doesn't create rules and boundaries for the elements within them, everyone can just do anything, and things just get out of hand and ridiculous. And that's just what happened in this film. And this event of nukes appearing and disappearing and the apparent end of the world, this happened in the DCEU. So technically, Bruce Wayne and technically Clark Kent and the other characters would have remembered this day when they had a wish and then they had to renounce it. Okay, so the plot is full of holes, devoid of logic, and did a poor job in creating any type of tension, suspense, or intrigue. But the characters themselves didn't do a great job either. The villains, they're just not that interesting. Pedro Pascal plays Maxwell Lord, a failed businessman, oil tycoon, wannabe, who grew up poor, and he becomes an evil genie by merging with the Dreamstone. His motivations at the beginning was to be rich and successful, which, while basic, it's something that you can understand and you can relate to, but then after he merges with the stone, his motivations become granting so many wishes and becoming the most powerful being, and suddenly I just don't care what happens to this guy. And then by the end of the film, he comes to the realization that he should care for his kid, and he finds him in some bushes and just faces no consequences. This whole arc just felt pointless. Then we've got Cheetah, played by Kristen Wiig. This character is so overdone, most recently by Jamie Foxx's Electro, previously by Jim Carrey's Riddler, and Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman. Her character growth is just summed up in her ability to walk in heels. At first, she's nerdy and shy, so she can't walk in heels. Then she makes a wish to become like Diana, she gets super strength, becomes really confident, and so now she can walk in heels. And at that point in the movie, she has Wonder Woman powers. She's literally a god. She could even turn things invisible if she only knew. But she asks to become an apex predator and is turned into a cheetah looking lady. Surely that's not an upgrade from before. Her character was quite a focal point in the early parts of the film, and for what? To go where? She doesn't bring anything to the table. There was potential, like if she and, Diana actually had some real chemistry and became good friends, and the power and jealousy corrupted her, it would be a bit more compelling, but nah, she was just there to become a CGI mess and to participate in a 1v1 with Wonder Woman in the dark. Because, you can't have Wonder Woman go and fight Pedro Pascal, because she just annihilate him in one punch. And quickly on Gal Gadot and Chris Pine. Look, they were fine as Diana and Steve Trevor. They sort of just retread on what worked in the previous film with the fish out of water thing, but they flipped it. So instead of Diana exploring the world, it would be Steve, and it was fun and stuff, but in a superhero action movie where the most acceptable part of the film is the rom-comish elements, that's just not great. And then the setting. The film is set in this idealized and even caricatured 1980s, where absolutely everyone is dressed in the most exaggerated 80s outfits, and it didn't give off a genuine 80s feel. There was no 80s soundtrack, no real world references really. It was just a sterile version of what the now thinks the 80s is. They clearly were trying to go for Stranger Things vibes with the mall at the beginning, but they missed the mark completely. Stranger Things has nostalgia just stand alone as a character, and it is as much a part of the show as any other element. But they seem to choose the 80s for this movie because I guess it fits within the DCEU timeline without messing up too much stuff. Not that it really matters now, and I guess because it represents a time of greed and excess. The movie is definitely not a non-stop 80s comedy or an 80s action movie. The nostalgia it tried to invoke felt almost fake and definitely unearned. And that's a good way to describe the majority of this film. It's just unearned. In conclusion, this movie had too many concepts that just weren't fully realized. It was devoid of logic, full of holes, and the long runtime just provided more time for people to sit and think about all the issues they're having with the movie. Look, it's not the worst movie in the DCEU. Suicide Squad has still got a firm grasp on that, but this movie is by no means good, and with Wonder Woman being the only solid film they had going really, it's not a great sign, and it sort of makes sense that they're keen to get this on streaming. But then again, they've greenlit a sequel, so Wonder Woman 3 is coming and it's being fast-tracked, so I mean, what do I know? Thank you guys for watching this video. Be sure to hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. What did you guys think of Wonder Woman 1984? Did you like it, or did you think it was a train wreck like I did? I would love to hear your thoughts down below. As always, thank you guys again for tuning in, and I'll catch you all in the next video.